This is what I think needs to be added if Plunderstorm is made a permanent game mode. So we're going to start nice and chill with the small stuff. We got fixed ability swapping bugs. We've got a simple match history layout and some spell outlines. So let's start with this first one. The ability swap bug. Here's me in a couple matches yesterday. This is the bug in question. So when you go to pick up a new ability, usually how it'll work is you see how it has the pick arrow there that will display like, hey, you're going to overwrite this ability. It's not always consistent. Watch what happens. Watch right here. See how the arrow was over the mine, but it swapped the 3 key out? Clearly, we're supposed to swap the 4 out. I pick up Faith Form, swaps 3 out. Now, you might say to yourself, well, that's not that big of a deal. That's not a huge issue. It's a massive issue when you're in mid-combat. Check this out. I'm trying to pick Rhyme Arrow and Holy Shield. Look. See how clunky it is? And this is mid-heat of battle that this bug is going on down. This single thing right here is the most infuriating bug that I have yet to encounter. Next up, we got match history. I don't know if you guys are like me, but I've been through a lot of matches where I will not even recognize where I'll place. You've got that flash of a screen that's like, hey, you placed 21st or whatever, then it'll go immediately into spectate mode. But then it's like, okay, if you didn't catch that in the interim, like you're still jazzed or energized, you got the adrenaline pumping, you could easily miss what you actually placed in, right? And a lot of you guys will pop in and be like, hey, how'd you do today? How many games have you won? And I'll be like, I don't know, I think I did pretty good. A simple match history thing in the game would work wonders. Now, I'm not a graphic designer, so this is very rough, but I went ahead and whipped up maybe a sample layout of what it could look like. You've got your games in descending order. So your most recent game is like, you know, the top one. You've got the place that you did, you got the number of kills, and then you got a timestamp, right? Just something very, very simple that you could scroll through and just see how you did. And then if you wanted to get real fancy with it, what you could do is you could also have the abilities that you died with be snapshotted into the match. So for example, say on this one, I died in 3rd place. It takes a look at my kit and it snapshots that, displays it here. There are so many third-party services and websites for match history for other games like TFT, League of Legends, Heroes of the Storm. I feel like this would be a no-brainer. Next up, spell outlines. This would help combat tremendously. Traditionally, when you go to pick up a spell, like here's a little whirling wind, for example, you see how it's slightly enlarged in comparison to the normal size of things? And that's cool. Like, yeah, you can kind of tell at a glance. But when you're in the heat of combat like this, you see how easy it is to miss it? I don't know if I'm picking up Lightning Bulwark. I don't know if I'm picking up the thing behind it. I don't know if I'm picking up the Searing Axe next to it. Oh, here comes a tornado. I better look at that. Watch my plunder down to the top 5. So it's really, really easy to miss just this in the heat of combat. And when you're trying to swap abilities out on the fly or grab an upgrade, man, you could screw yourself, right? Imagine if like this Lightning Bulwark would upgrade the spell tremendously. This is really what I'm going for, but oh no, I'm really in range of Searing Axe. Instead, I pick that up and I drop my Lightning Bulwark. Bro, that's a massive L. Such a simple fix for this. Add a spell outline. Do the little glow effect. You know those little active glow effects on things when you could use them? Just put that in the background. Keep the enlargement, but look how much easier it is to tell what you're about to pick up. And then boom, in the heat of combat, same deal. Yeah? Here's some before and afters. You could see the first scenario. On the left, that's normal. On the right, boom. It's so much easier to see what you're actually going to grab. And then heat of combat, you start to see how much of a benefit this would be. On the left side, I have no idea when I'm picking up. On the right side, it's very, very clear. Let's just take that already in use effect that's in the game, slap it behind the spells, put a little bit more emphasis and a little bit more clarity on what we're actually going to snag mid-combat. Next up, let's talk about some big stuff. So we're going to go over ranked mode. We're going to go over seasons in standard format. We're going to talk about the cosmetics. We're going to talk about private lobbies. And of course, we're going to talk about some new maps. Now, let's start off with the ranked mode. So When we talk about Battle Royale progression, one of the deepest things that I think we can get into is the possibility of a ranked mode, or even outside of Battle Royales. Ranked mode is one of those intrinsic value adds that keeps people playing. They want to push themselves to get to that platinum, diamond, master rank, etc. When you're able to look at your start of the season and your end of the season, and you're able to see, oh, I went from bronze to gold. That's that type of internal progression that feels really good, that keeps you playing. And then when you reach those upper echelons of the ranks, that feels great. It really feels like you mastered the game when you're at the top of the line. Now, aside from that, it also provides a competitive outlet, right? And we saw over the weekend just how fun that competition can be with the Plunderstorm event. People want to take this stuff and be competitive with it, man. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But if we allow them to do that, we need to keep a quick match, social, chill mode. For people who just want to get in, blast, and have fun, there's quick match. But everyone wins. You get the intrinsic progression from the ranked mode. People could sweat if they want to. They're in a separate queue that has separate progression systems, but we also have that fun, casual, quick match as well. Zara asked the lead producer about a ranked mode, and the developer said, we want to keep this game mode for fun, so keep the fun. Exactly. And that's what quick match is. So many competitive games have that. So many. Overwatch, League of Legends, Heroes of the Storm, Dota. They have two separate modes because at the end of the day, people do want to play ranked. They want to have that internal progression metric, right? And you could have it to where everyone wins by splitting them up into two modes. If people want to sweat, they play ranked. If they want to chill, you got quick match. Otherwise, we're mixing the two pools together and nobody really wins, do they? Let's talk about this. Seasons in standard format. One of the things that really is going to threaten this mode, I think, in the long run, when we're talking about adding new content, is bloat. Something that I see a lot of people asking for when it comes to new additions is new abilities. And I love new abilities, but there's going to be a looming problem when we fast forward a couple iterations. It's going to get to the point where there's 100 abilities and the game feels very, very bloated. Some other games have had this exact same thing happen, and they've been able to solve it in a very unique way. Other genres even, particularly the trading card game genre, Magic the Gathering and Hearthstone. So what Hearthstone decided to do was have two separate formats. They have a standard format, and then they have a wild format. Now, you think about Hearthstone, we're talking about thousands of cards over the years. Obviously, it's going to get to the point where things are absolutely busted. Power creep is going to get to an all-time high. It's going to be very, very difficult to reset the game to what it was, and it's also going to back the developers in a corner. It's much harder to design fun and unique things when you have to deal with cards that you created in 2014. So what they did was they created a standard mode, which basically only lasts for a limited time, say a year or two. Cards that come out during that time are in the standard format of the game that people normally play, and then you have wild mode, which includes everything. I feel like this would be a great fit for Plunderstorm. Here are some of the benefits that Seasons or the standard format could bring to the table. It allows developers to add the new abilities while managing bloat. It also provides us the opportunity with theming new abilities around certain seasons. Say, for example, we want to have a new season, season 2, it's like, I don't know, Season of the Fell. Yeah, it's all Legion themed. Say we get Hellfire Peninsula as a new map, right? Well, we can design abilities that are centered around this Legion theme to fit in with a new map. Then, when they don't necessarily make sense or don't fit the current format, they could rotate out, and then we don't have to deal with like their design consequences like 5 years later. It also opens up the opportunity to have a, quote, wild game mode. Imagine we get to the point where Plunderstorm is like, I don't know, 200 abilities or whatever. It's just absolutely busted. It's okay to be busted. It's okay for things to be chaotic. And in fact, a lot of the game modes that feature those sort of things are pretty popular. I'm going to refer back to Hearthstone's wild format, right? It's a whole new gameplay opportunity where it's like isolated, it's in a vacuum, people who want that experience know what they're getting, but it's still there. Aside from that, let's talk about cosmetics and skins. Now, obviously, we're familiar with the standard skin system. It's very, very successful in League of Legends. I mean, dude, some of League skins have raked in tens of millions, if not maybe hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't know about the hundreds of millions, but they've raked in a lot of money. So obviously, skins would make a lot of sense in Plunderstorm, right? And we've seen those iterations come through with like different things that you could transmog when it comes to the swords or, you know, the vests, whatever the case may be. But there's a whole new level of customization that we can tap into when it comes to Plunderstorm. First of all, let's talk about some new races. Now, when we think about the premise of adding a Murloc or a Tuskar or a Centaur into World of Warcraft, there are a lot of things that we have to consider. Druid forms, various animations that are associated with the player character, shaman totems. There's so much overhead involved with actually making a race playable in World of Warcraft that sometimes the workload is just too much. The bang is not worth the buck. The juice is not worth the squeeze. But in Plunderstorm, when you've got a very limited animation set, it's a lot easier to add things like a playable Murloc. Think about that. Compare how many animations are featured in Plunderstorm with how many animations are featured in World of Warcraft. A lot easier to slap this bitch in here, isn't it? Now, aside from additional playable races, let's talk about some more customization options. This is one of my favorite moments in Plunderstorm, the drop-in. Now, a drop-in seems like, yeah, it's a fun moment, it's exciting, but there's opportunity here for customization. Watch this. You see how you land on a parrot? You've got this big explosion animation. What if we allowed you to change that up? To say, I don't know, a rocket? What if you flew in on a rocket? And instead of landing in a hailstorm of feathers, you exploded and have a big boom animation. Or say, a celestial steed coming in hot, you got an explosion of stars, huh? Or how about a beloved frostworm? You come in on that mighty drake, you land in a fantastic explosion of bone and frost. All these mounts are already in the game. They've got all their animations ready to go. This isn't going to intrude on gameplay at all because you're literally just flying in. But this is an avenue of customization that I think people would really enjoy for. I think people would work for it. Cool little carrot on the stick for the progression track. Can I ride Deej into battle? Sure. Yeah, absolutely did. Now, aside from that, I think another big add would be private lobbies for a couple of reasons. Number one, private lobbies would give people the opportunity to go in and test certain skills and abilities. Say you wanted to try and just practice a combo set, or you wanted to get a feel for a certain build in a more enclosed setting. Get some practice in, right? Private lobbies would allow you to do that and also play with friends. Say you got some beef to settle with a buddy. Say you got a bet, loser pays dinner. A private lobby would give you the opportunity to do that. Now, aside from that, I think there's a big value add with private lobbies because it would allow other organizations to run their own tournaments. It wouldn't be all on Blizzard to just run Plunderstorm, right? You could have other esports organizations or community organizations to put on some of these tournaments. And there's a long history of them being very, very successful. For example, the Super Smash Brothers scene. That's not run by Nintendo. All that is community sanctioned, community sponsored, community organized, community ran. Heroes of the Storm, for a long time, their pro scene was kept alive by a private organization hosting their own tournaments, right? Like, just say, for example, I don't know, we wanted to do an event here in the chat. I could create a tournament. We could have our own, like, tournament prize pool, stuff like that. That is the fun that private lobbies would allow. It would just allow for other opportunities for the community at large to create some cool events. And we saw over the weekend how popular those events could be. Why not give other people the tools to do so? Because it would lessen the load on Blizzard, and it ultimately would be a win for everybody. Now, the next feature, let's talk about new maps. First, what's important when we consider a map in Plunderstorm? Well, we need a lot of flat land. A lot of flat land. Not too much topology, because topology is a little bit difficult to traverse. We need some key points of interest, right? Some interesting things to look at, some buildings to go through, etc. And it needs to be fairly easy to traverse, because we're on foot most of the time, right? Think about Arathi. It's a lot of flat land. There's some divots, there's some interesting points, but mostly it's not very mountainous. That's what we're looking for. Aside from that, I think something really important to consider is the variance that we get when we add new maps. For me, more biomes equals more variance. Now, what's a biome? If you've never heard this word before, it's essentially like an environment type. So different biomes are like desert, tundra, lush forest, things like that. More biomes equals more variance. If you close your eyes and you think about two map pools, one map pool is Arathi, Elwyn, and Hillsbrad. TLDR, you boil it down, it's a bunch of grass. Now here's set number 2. You got Elwyn, you got Hellfire Peninsula, you've got Ice Crown. Which one of those pools is going to feel the most variant? The second. So when the team looks to add maps, I think they should look and see what type of biomes they don't have and go for those first. Now, just to give you guys an example, the first map that I think they should add, Hellfire Peninsula. Hellfire Peninsula, I think, is a great first step. Number 1, highly nostalgic for a lot of people. A lot of people love Hellfire. It was their first glimpse into Burning Crusade. Number 2, it's relatively flat. Number 3, there's a lot of points of interest. A lot of interesting spots to explore, find treasures, find abilities in. But one of the key things that I think could set Hellfire Peninsula apart from the others is that beautiful Fell Reaver. Oh, think of it this way. You guys know those treasure golems that are rolling around? Those pieces of hate? Those little kiss curse bosses? High risk, high reward? The Fell Reaver would make for a mighty fine iteration of that, would it not? Talk about risk versus reward. Killing a Fell Reaver mid-match to get an XP boon. That's some big risk versus reward. Let's get to the next point. Monetization. This is going to be a hot topic for a lot of people, so bear with me on this one. This is how I think they should monetize this, because we all know what's coming. First of all, I think it should be free to play. I think Plunderstorm is more of a potential to draw people into WoW, less of a potential to keep people subbed just to play it. This is a really, really interesting hook that I think a lot of people would try, but when the barrier to entry is $15 a month for just this game mode, I honestly would imagine we're losing more people from that than we're gaining. So I think it should just be free to play, and then we should see what the conversion stats are. I guarantee you that a decent amount of people are going to at least go over and maybe play the free trial of WoW. I mean, I don't obviously know the cost-benefit analysis of that, right? I don't have the financials in front of us, but I would honestly go out on a limb to say more people will be interested in this game mode and WoW in general if the barrier to entry is as low as possible. And that means making it free to play. Now, if we're going to actually do a battle royale, I think we should monetize it like a battle royale, which means cosmetics, right? Skins, maybe some variance things that I talked about earlier with the different drop-in animations, whatever the case may be, right? Nothing that impedes on the gameplay itself, no pay-to-win advantages, purely cosmetics, purely skins, things like that. And then the last point that I'll say is a battle pass, because we all know they're going to slap that bitch in there. So this is how I think they should do it. I think the battle pass should automatically be included if you have an active World of Warcraft sub. Here's why. Right now, the Plunderstorm is a good value add to a normal World of Warcraft sub. It's like an added benefit. It's the icing on the cake. It's an additional thing to help you get your $15 a month worth. And by automatically granting you a battle pass, if it's free to play, you still get that value add, right? You're still getting something new out of this additional game mode by having a sub to WoW. So it recognizes that value. At the end of the day, all cosmetic, no gameplay impositions. But I feel like this is, if we're going to do a battle pass, this is the way you should do it. You can make it earnable by just playing the game, but if you have that WoW sub, you automatically have it in there for free. So, those are my takes. Those are the things that I hope are going to come on down to Plunderstorm if it's made a permanent game mode. What do you guys think about any of those points? I'm interested to hear y'all's opinions on it.